Welcome to Lighten Up, the art of living clutter-free, a podcast where we tackle the literal and figurative clutter standing between you and your healthiest and happiest life. I'm Melanie, your host, coach, and guide on this journey to help you design a life that you love. Whether it's clearing out your kitchen cabinets, untangling your digital files, or letting go of the mental blocks that hold you back, we're here to make space for what truly matters. Let's lighten up together, starting now. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the very first episode of Lighten Up, the art of living clutter-free. I'm Melanie Cohen, and I'm so glad you're here. I am a weight loss and decluttering coach, a lifelong New Yorker, and someone who knows what it feels to be weighed down, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally too. If you're feeling overwhelmed by the visible and invisible clutter in your life, you've come to the right place. Let me tell you a little bit about why I have started this podcast. Over the years, I've worked with so many amazing people who felt stuck. They felt stuck in their homes. They felt stuck in their minds. They felt stuck in their bodies. And in many cases, all three. What I've learned is that the weight we carry isn't just about what's on the scale or in our closets. It is the emotional and mental clutter that weighs us down just as much, if not more. Through this podcast, I want to share stories, insights, and actionable steps to help you lighten up your life in every sense of the phrase. To kick things off today, I want to share my story. Maybe some of it will feel familiar to you, and if it does, please know you are not alone. My journey has been anything but a straight line. It has not been linear at all. It's been full of ups and downs, discoveries and realizations, and I'm here to tell you that wherever you are right now, it's never too late to create lasting change. And one more thing, I'm not doing this alone. On this podcast, I'll have guests joining me, experts in numerous fields from health and wellness to psychology, organization, and beyond. The one thing they all have in common is that their work, in one way or another, traces back to the concept of clutter. Even if they don't realize it yet, clutter is at the root of so many challenges in our lives. And I can't wait for you to hear from these amazing voices. But first, my story, which means we have to go back to the beginning. Growing up, gymnastics was my world. From the moment I saw Olga Korbut in the 1972 Munich Olympic Games, I was completely mesmerized. I wanted to fly through the air just like her. And for years, I had that opportunity. I loved everything about gymnastics. I loved flying. I loved tumbling and twisting and flipping and vaulting, swinging on the bars and dancing across the floor. There is something magical about pushing your body to do the things you never thought possible. And I thrived on that challenge daily. Gymnastics taught me discipline, consistency, and it taught me resilience. I spent hours in the gym, some weeks as many as 25 or even more. And that time was spent perfecting every skill and every routine. But as much as I loved the sport, there was a darker side. Gymnastics came with intense scrutiny, especially over weight and appearance. It was toxic scrutiny over weight and appearance. My coaches constantly monitored the scale, and every pound was treated like a personal failure. This verbal abuse included these coaches calling me and my other teammates piggy, fatty, chubby, all the things no one should ever hear, and most certainly a young girl running around in a leotard. The pressure wasn't just verbal, it was physical too. I had a coach who would smack me in the back of the head when I didn't meet expectations. Like that was a way to get me to meet expectations. The verbal abuse cut deep, and it made me feel like I wasn't enough no matter how hard I worked and how hard I tried. So over time, the toxic environment began to overshadow the joy I found in the sport. No longer was it as fun to flip and twist and tumble and vault and swing and dance. The constant pressure chipped away at my love for gymnastics, and eventually I made the incredibly difficult decision to quit. I quit before actualizing my ultimate dreams. And walking away from gymnastics was one of the hardest things I have ever done in my life. It wasn't just about leaving the sport, it was about losing a part of my identity. I identified myself as Melanie the gymnast, and it hurt when I left. But looking back, it was also one of the bravest decisions I've ever made. Leaving meant reclaiming my mental and reclaiming my emotional health as well. So after leaving gymnastics, I went to college 3,000 miles away from home in New York to Los Angeles, and I was really ready to start a new chapter. But it wasn't long before life threw me another curveball. While I was focusing on school and friends and other experiences, my family's life back home was unraveling. My dad's addiction to crack cocaine led him to losing his business and eventually his car, and eventually my parents lost their home. And at the same time, my relationship with them became strained, and eventually we became estranged for a while. I was completely on my own. I was living with the constant fear of not having enough money for food or a roof over my head. I didn't know how I was going to make it work. And then out of nowhere, or what felt like out of nowhere, I was blindsided by something that I never saw coming. The school asked me to leave because my parents had stopped paying tuition, and no one had told me that any of this was happening. So it really felt like the rug had been pulled out from under me. And as you would suspect, I was devastated. I was angry. I was scared. Oh, I was feeling all of the difficult emotions, and the experience left a deep mark on me. It's where my scarcity mindset really took root. You know, the fear that nothing is guaranteed, that everything could be taken away at any moment. And that became like a constant companion to me in my head. It showed up in every area of my life, my relationships, my decisions, and even the way I held on to things. So during this time, I was also struggling deeply with my weight. I began to feel like my weight preceded me. Like it was the first thing that anyone saw when they looked at me. I felt fat. I felt like a fat mom, a fat and ugly wife, a fat employee. I was a regional merchandise manager for a lingerie manufacturer. And so if that preceded that, I was a fat regional manager for a lingerie company. And no, that's not what preceded me. But these thoughts began to dominate how I saw myself. And the more I focused on these feelings, the harder it became to see anything good in life. I felt stuck in this cycle of self-loathing and shame and self-loathing and shame and self-loathing and shame. And eventually, thank goodness, there was a turning point. It was after having my second daughter and after a year where there were at least three incidents in my life that could have totally broken or been the straw that broke the camel's back and lead me to a weight loss journey, but it took all three. And I promise you, all three of these I will talk about in future episodes. So thank gosh, after all that, something clicked. And I realized that I didn't want to live the rest of my life feeling this way about myself. I committed to a healthier lifestyle because I needed to commit to a healthier lifestyle. I craved having that healthier lifestyle, and I eventually lost over 60 pounds. The journey was not just about changing my body, it was about changing how I saw myself. For the first time in years, I felt like I was taking control of my life as opposed to my life controlling me. It was like I finally felt in control of the food as opposed to feeling like the food controlled me. And this experience is what led me to become a weight loss coach. For 20 years, I worked with Weight Watchers, and while I was there, I helped thousands of people lose tens of thousands of pounds. It was an incredibly rewarding journey, one of the most rewarding journeys in my life. Being able to guide so many people toward healthier lives and watch them achieve things that they never thought was possible, I can't even express what the feelings are associated with doing that. But what I learned in these years is that weight isn't just about what's on the scale. So much of it is tied to emotional, mental, and even environmental clutter. So over time, I began to see this connection between weight and clutter, the physical clutter in our homes, the mental clutter in our minds, the emotional clutter in our hearts. And as I transitioned out of my 20-year coaching journey with Weight Watchers, I started to explore more deeply the idea of helping people in a broader way beyond just weight loss. And so around this time, I had the incredible opportunity to work on a few projects with my dear friend Sonia Weishaupt, who will be a future guest on the show. Sonia has been a friend of mine for over 40 years, and she's an incredibly successful female small business owner, and she works in the organizational and inventory management space. And working alongside her wasn't just eye-opening for me, it was transformative. Sonia became a mentor to me in the clutter side of my business. And through our projects together, I learned so much more about the emotional connections people have to their belongings and how to approach organization with empathy and with respect. Watching her in action was inspiring. Here was this confident, successful woman running her own business with grace, expertise, and a clear vision. And Sonia's influence played a huge role in shaping the work that I do today. She taught me not only the practical aspects of decluttering and organization, but also the deeper emotional and psychological layers that come along with it. And her mentorship gave me the confidence to integrate these skills into my own coaching practice and showed me what's possible when you approach people's challenges with understanding and with care. So now you're wondering, what's next? And that's why we're here today. This podcast is about exploring the connection between weight, clutter, and the stories that we tell ourselves. If you have ever felt weighed down by too much, whether too much is in your home, on your schedule, your physical weight, or your thoughts, you are not alone. So together, we're going to uncover how to lighten up inside and out. In future episodes, we'll dive deeper into topics like emotional clutter and emotional eating, how scarcity and attachment show up in both our homes and our relationship with food. We'll also talk about mental clutter as a barrier to change, how overwhelming thoughts and self-doubts can hold us back. And we'll talk about physical clutter and physical weight, how the state of our environment impacts our health and our mindset. We'll discuss the fact that my company and my coaching approach is a mindset first methodology. Diets don't work, and how shifting our mindset can create lasting and transformative change is an incredibly important topic to me. We'll talk about creating healthy habits that stick, which just means simple ways to build routines that support your goals without feeling overwhelmed. You'll hear me talking a lot about ridiculously simple goals. The smaller the goal, the ones where it almost feels laughable to say out loud because we think other people are going to be like, that's not a goal, you can do it in 2 minutes. That's the best goal there is on the planet. That little goal that you can achieve quickly, feel confident, pat yourself on the back. Great job. And that helps inspire and motivate you and help you become more confident in the more complex goals that are in your future. Like I said, you're going to hear from experts in numerous fields, and they'll share insights that trace back to the concept of clutter, even if we don't realize it yet. So these connections will surprise you, inspire you, and help you see clutter in a whole new light. I want to thank you so much for joining me on this very first episode of Lighten Up, the art of living clutter free. If my story has resonated with you, I hope it sparked a new perspective, a sense of hope, or even just the motivation to take one small step. You're not alone, and I'm here with you every step of the way. And until next time, remember, small steps add up, and every little bit of lightening up can make a huge difference in your life. Till next time. Thank you for tuning into this episode of Lighten Up, the Art of Living Clutter-Free. I hope you found a spark of inspiration to help declutter not just your space, but your mind and life as well. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who could use a little lightness in their life. Remember, it's not about being perfect, it's about progress. Small steps lead to big changes, and I'm here to help you every step of the way. For more tips, resources, and ways to connect, check out my website, follow me on social media, and don't forget to check out the Design Your Healthy Life Strategy program to take your transformation even further. Until next time, keep letting go of what no longer serves you and making room for what truly lights you up.